while he's doing that, as you well know, the database design part of these projects can get rather complex, and there's all kinds of custom things that you can do. To make it, what Trey's point on that is, if you can keep your uniqueness and do all the things you need to do from a unique perspective, parcel number is different from acreage is different from whatever. Take into account things like power lines, things, interior lot lines, and those sort of things, and keep those in the database design. And as you do maintenance and you keep it rather simple, you're not going to get yourself in trouble. Let me say that differently. You have a better chance of not getting yourself in trouble from a topology and a database perspective. So it is important to keep in mind, ARC's going to give you the ability to have just a whopper, knock 'em dead database design, but from a maintenance standpoint and a day-to-day use standpoint, that can be a disaster. Unless you just plan on having an ARC analyst do the maintenance for you. I don't know anybody who's doing that.
Okay, so here is an example of the database design. I don't know how well you can read that. What we've got here is, these are our data sets. We've got our new dashboard data set containing all your parcel editing features. If you were to have an addressing involved in here, there would be an addressing data set that contains all your addressing features. Below this is what is called what we call here county data. This is static data, your map grid, E911 center lines, reference material, things that you're not editing on a day-to-day basis, things that you're almost never going to edit, go into this data set. It's going to reference this, but other than that, pretty much leave it alone. Or just simply called tax is a copy of the IS tax database. It's a relationship. We prefer to set up a database design that uses a relationship between the tax database and your parcels as opposed to a join, and that really just comes back to simplicity again. When you're working with your data, you're working with your parcels, all you see are your parcel attributes until you desire to see those tax records. And then you expand your selection and there they are. And then they go away as you're working through day-to-day editing. You don't always need to directly go into your tax tables just to make a split, but if you need it, it's there. If you don't need it, you don't see it. So in this cadastral data set, I don't know how well you can read this at all, but along here at the top, we've got what would be acres 100, acres 400. A little bit lower, you'll see PID, I believe it's called 100 and 400. These are four feature-linked annotation classes that are your parcel number and your acreage. So these are going to update automatically as you do your splits and you do your data. You make the change to the data. That annotation updates from 5 acres to 4 acres, from parcel 7 to parcel 7.6. There is an anno 100 and anno 400 class in here. This is where all the rest of your annotation classes are going to belong. This is where they reside. And inside of here, so these are all the different annotation classes. You can see there's quite a few of these. Now, having a 100 and a 400 scale anno feature class with individual anno classes residing inside of them means that you can look at your database and make sense of it. You don't see 15 different annotation classes when you're trying to get to your parcel lines and different things. Now, these are essentially handled in the MXDs as if they were their own class. You can turn individual annotation classes on or off. You don't have to turn all of the anno 100 off or on. You can do substitutions in your data for these individual anno classes. So think of the annotation feature class as your umbrella. This keeps it this is what keeps it organized. Your anno classes beneath this are where you get down to your individual settings. And this is where you set your different sizes, different fonts. Let's get to it. I just want to show a symbol. different symbols like county shields, so the road shields. So all of that information is stored in this one annotation class. Like I said, here's our favorite item, topology here. Points, lines, and polygons. These top 2 rules is what, well, really the top 4 rules. It's what you keep an eye on, is what keeps your data nice and sound and intact. Parcel IDs have got to fall inside of tax parcel polygon. Vice versa, tax parcel polygons have got to contain parcel ID pointing. These tax parcel polygons got to be covered by a line, the line's got to be covered by a polygon boundary. Maintaining those 4 things means that you can officially maintain your data and you can officially recreate your data if you need to. If this is maintained, if something were to happen, somebody comes in one morning and makes a mistake, deletes half the polygons in the county, they're gone. No backup, they're gone. These rules are maintained, you can recreate these in 5 to 10 minutes.
After you kill that person.
Well, you don't have to kill them. Now you can bring it back in 5 or 10 minutes. So, and it's also, we may be running short on time. We'll try to get to this data. What
No, we're still fine.
The other rules you see here are just your line rules. Don't have overlapping lines, intersecting lines. This is just keeping your data nice and neat and organized. Got a district map polygon here. This is used in, this is important in what's in the database design and creating your hard copy maps. This is just a dissolved parcel layer based on the district map that it falls in. There's a couple different applications that's used for. We've got our parcel lines. So those are the lines that make up all the boundaries. The ones that give feature codes, the ones that have right-of-way codes, so parcel codes. Parcel ID point, like I said, this is an exact copy of the attributes in your polygons. That point is what allows you to recreate all these polygons when somebody has deleted them by accident. Par lines, like we mentioned with the unknown parcels, are going to be all of your lines in the data that do not make up parcel boundaries. This is how you show your easements. So within these different features here, the codes and the subclasses and the annotation classes is what allows you to achieve everything that you would achieve from a much more complex database design without having to have an individual layer for each thing. They're grouped and then they're classed out by where they fall in that particular group. We use, for that class, when I say feature code, when I say comp code, what we use for this are domains. Now these are probably going to be impossible for you to read, I guess, but so a comp code here. These are our COCO no adjustments. COCO adjustment, best fit. This is if you work with domains, this is just a drop down. Put this one in, you hit that field, you see your drop down list, you assign it the way that it was created. You do the same thing for your feature codes. So that means your parcel line feature codes. Parcel is needed, parcel water, railroad right of way, road right of way. These are all domains, they're nice and neat. You don't have to key these, you don't key these in, you don't have typos in them, you just have a series of choices. And you just choose one. Here's your solving, what we call par lines, city line, lot line, easement. So you see there's quite a few of these. So you can build as many of these as you need. You're only going to have 2 types of lines in your database. Those that make up parcel boundaries and those that don't. They fall into one of those 2 categories. If you have a specific line, for whatever reason, in your county you've shown, you add the code to which one it falls on.